I've raced over 75 ultramarathon over the years. And although I love the sport, I do have some regrets. There are things that I wish I had done differently or things I had learned earlier in my ultra running journey. And today I'm going to share these with you. I'm going to share my biggest regrets as an experienced ultra runner. Hi, Simon here. Welcome to my channel. On my channel, I try to have a very transparent and honest dialogue about ultra running to help you have your own adventure. And today I'm going to talk about the subject that I feel a little uncomfortable sharing, and these are about the regrets I have about ultra running or how I've approached it. And obviously, I'm very happy ultra running, otherwise I wouldn't have a channel, I wouldn't share that with people. But there are things that, looking back, even though overall it's been a great experience, I do have regrets as an ultra runner, and I want to share these with you. Why? Well, they say that a wise man learns from his mistake and the wisest man learns from someone else's mistake. So how about that? Learn from my mistake. And to understand some of my regret, I think it's good to step back a little bit and understand how I entered the world of ultra running. I was much more of a hiker and a photographer. I guess I ran a little bit, mostly just to keep in shape, but I was not really a runner. I was not really an athlete. I was a hiker. I was someone who loved nature, and still do, obviously. And that's what drew me to the sport of ultra running. Some people, they were athlete, they were marathon runner, and they wanted to push the limit. Maybe you read Born to Run, maybe you read Can't Hurt Me. For me, I just love nature, and I wanted to hike further and further and further. But looking at ultra running, it just felt like this was not for me. I'm not a guy like David Goggin. I'm not an athlete. I'm not that. I'm just a nerd, and I love nature, and I love relaxing, and I love my little things. So understanding that might actually shape quite a few of these ultra running regrets that I have. And the first one is actually exactly that. I felt like ultra running was not for me. I felt that ultra running was for people that are extreme and that are hardcore and badass, and that's just so not me. I'm not competitive. I really don't care about suffering. Ultra running is just, it's not for me. It's for people that are very intense about it, that are hardcore. It's for the David Goggin. It's for people that are seeking the pain. I was like, I'm not seeking the pain. I'm seeking adventure and journey. And what I saw portrayed very often in social media, I was like, that's not me. I don't want to lose all of my toenail. I don't want to be suffering all the time. I don't seek to prove anything to anyone. I just want to have adventure. So it felt that ultra running was not for me. And although eventually I made the leap of faith, I feel that I've lost some good years that I would have been very happy on trail. Of course, it's never too late. And I always tell everyone, it's never too late. You're never too old to enter the sport. Cross that line that feels like, wow, this is not for me. And the reality is that it is for you. It is for everyone. And the sport of ultra running can be whatever you want it to be. People that are very intense, very competitive, that they want to suffer, that pain is so pleasurable for them, like, great. I mean, these people exist, and if that's what they find in ultra running and they're happy with that, great. But you really don't have to be like that. And the funny thing is that you would think that once you've made that leap of faith and you start ultra running, like, you understand that. But at every distance, I felt the same way. I felt like, wow, 100 mile, like, that's crazy. That's a crazy distance. It happened very much so at the 200 mile, where it took me several years to be like, you know what? Let's just do one. Let's do a 200 miler and see what this is all about. I wish I had done that earlier, because then you find the distance that is perfect for you. And I think we need to resist the urge of always wanting more distance, which will be a point for later. But at the same time, there's a distance or a type of adventure that will probably suit you the best. There were races that I was intimidated, and that's still the case right now. I look at these and I was like, wow, like, I don't know about that. I've done some pretty difficult race, but I still get intimidated by that. And that has pushed me sometimes to even sign up for a race, not necessarily because this is what I'm seeking in terms of adventure, but because I felt this is something I can actually do. Choosing the race, and that's one of my regrets, choosing the race and the adventure based on what I think I can accomplish rather than based on what I want to accomplish. Last year I did Tour des Géants, which was a race I felt like, oh, there's no way. And it was the best adventure I've ever had. Now let's move into the regrets that are regrets, like things I was like, oh my God, oh wow, that was so dumb. One of the big one is that it took me quite some time, and I think I'm looking back all the way to even when I was hiking pretty intensely. It took me a long time to understand the importance of fueling properly during the event or during the hike or during the adventure, but also outside of these adventure and taking rest seriously, rest and recovery seriously. It's very easy to focus on pushing, training, and not realizing just how essential eating properly is and resting properly is. It's so obvious when I look back, but when I was starting, I would look at these people and they would have crazy amount of mileage and they wouldn't necessarily fuel properly and they could accomplish amazing thing. Now looking back, it's like, actually, rest and food, so important, so underrated. Once you resolve these issues, a lot of it will kind of fall in place almost automatically. Speaking of pushing your limit and flirting with what are the limitation of your own body, yes, your mind is really important, but your body is real and there's real limit to what your body can do. And we have different limits with that, and we can change these limits through training properly and recovery and all of these things. But I think injuries and injury management is very real in the sport of trail and ultra running. I feel that every long distance runner that I know that has a lot of experience have at some point had some kind of injury or at least ailment that has really prevent them from doing what they want. And understanding how to deal with these injuries, taking those seriously, it's something that it took me, unfortunately, a couple of injuries to actually realize that. And that was actually before I had my channel. One of them, I was sidelined for about 4 months where I couldn't run properly. And that's me in a race deciding that I'm going to push through that. I was not taking the risk of injury seriously. And I broke. I broke my body to a level where then what can I do? I can't walk without pain. I can't run. I'm sidelined. And it's very frustrating and very sad. And then looking back, you realize that, I should have taken that seriously because there were a lot of signs within the race that were shouting like, Simon, you gotta stop right now. If you don't take these injuries seriously, that could end your career or a career as a runner straight up. You can lead to surgery. It can lead to situation where you're not even able to come back to running ever. Speaking of appropriate step, something that it took me a very long time to understand is just how important strength training is. You hear it all the time, people will say, oh yeah, strength training, that's important. It's like, okay, cool. But like running obviously is the most important, right? And then maybe fueling, but strength training, like that's the last thing you want to do. It's time consuming, it's painful, and I might as well just be running. My first serious injury was from me, especially on the downhill, where it became really painful. And although it's hard to know for a fact that necessarily strength training would have prevented it, but if you talk with any physiotherapist and most people that are experienced, like, well, it would have helped for sure. And now I take strength training much more seriously. I recommend myself, you should always have 1 or 2 sessions per week when you have a training plan. And yes, it's difficult to find the time, but these maybe 30-minute time per week is the equivalent of 6 less mile that you're running at zone 2. The trade-off is definitely worth it. One of the biggest regret I have, and maybe that fitted more in the first half of this video, is I feel that sometimes I get kind of carried away in whatever I'm doing, right? I'm doing the Grand Slam, and the Grand Slam is everything. Like that's what I'm doing right now, and losing a little bit the broader picture of why am I doing this in general. It's because I want some adventure, to feel fulfillment, to have happiness, to sometimes share moments with my wife on trail. And when I focus too much on the race or the event, I lose track of that. And that can be true in training too, where yeah, I actually race a lot, but I train much more than I race. And being happy in training matters. It's not always doing treadmill runs. Sometimes you go out there on trail, it's gonna be fun. It's not the best training, but it's fun training. And not losing sight of this, why am I doing this, really helps me choose the right adventure and remain happy in the process. And if you're happy when you're training and if you're happy when you're racing, you will accomplish much more. Now, I'm not saying that you will always be happy, but if you lose sight of the broader picture of the why you're doing this, you lose yourself a little bit. One of the regret that I have, and I think it's associated to racing so much, I have to work full time. And most of the time, what that means is I have to be as little time as possible where the race is. I can work remotely, but I need to minimize that. And sometimes I will arrive Thursday or even Friday, check in for the race over the weekend, and I'm out. And I don't get to explore the area. I don't get to hang out with people. One of the races that I really regret not realizing that the first time I did it was at Cocodona. It's a 250-mile race, which means that there's a wide gap between the first finisher and the last finisher. And, I finished in the mid-pack, but there's almost 24 hours where people are still arriving. And the first year I did it, I had to go. And I was not there for the golden hour. I was not there to hang out with people after the race. And I wish I had been. There are reasons why I leave. It's not like, oh, I don't care about people. It's more like, well, I gotta get going. I have other things going on right now. But this year I stayed longer, and it was so much fun to share these moments with people, to see, people that you were running together on the first day, how did they do? And then you see them cross the finish line, you see your friends, and you can hang out at the restaurant and you cheer people in the golden hour. So taking a little bit more time to just sit back and enjoy the people, which is one of the key reasons I'm running. Over focusing on quantity over quality is extremely common. You see people running 100-mile and it's like, wow, that seems to be the way to do it. And you can accomplish the same running way less than that and doing runs that are much more pleasant than feeling like you always have to achieve this really high mileage. So structuring my training was something that I was hesitant because it felt like this is something more for marathon running, or if I would want to run a sub 3 hour marathon, that's when I really have to have interval session. And instead, now I'm just an ultra runner. I want to do my things. I'm just gonna go as I feel and I'm just gonna run. Once you realize that, well, you can kind of do that, but still understand a little bit more the physiology and how you can adapt your body better without being overly obsessed about it. If I decide to spend 2 more hours running because I want to reach an arbitrary milestone of certain amount of mileage per week because I feel that this is what I need to do, focusing on that quantity, that will impact other aspects of my life. And finally, my biggest regret is, ultra running is definitely a big part of my life. It's something that I have so many friends doing it. It's something that when works get frustrating, meaning pretty much all the time, I have something to look forward to. I have this escape that, sometimes it's just I'm going to go run a 5K or a 10K for training. And sometimes I have this cool adventure with my wife. We're going to go to Switzerland. We're going to run in the Alps, in 1 month or 2 months. And having this thing that this carrot in front of me is important. But it's also easy, especially in my case, when you have a YouTube channel, to be like, well, this is who I am. Like, I'm a runner. This is my personality. And then, you get an injury like I did earlier this year, and then I can't run or I can't walk without pain for months and months. And I guess that's what triggered me to do this video, where one of my regret is that by being almost obsessed about trail running and ultra running, I don't regret loving the sport so much, but I forget that I'm more than a runner. And I'm more than just a power hiker also. I'm someone and I have other interests, and it feels like, did I neglect these other aspects of my life? Did I spend too much time training, too much time trying to reach this next goal? It feels like, wow, well, what do normal people do with their time? And that's it, folks. These are some of my biggest regret as an ultra runner. I'm curious to hear from you. What are your biggest regrets? What are things that you wish you had done differently that we can share with each other so that maybe other people will hear that, understand that, and avoid falling to the same kind of trap that you have. We can learn from each other. As always, thanks for watching. If you appreciate this video, please leave a thumbs up, comment below, share with your friends, and see you next time.